Welcome to another video from McFatter Tech Musser. If you like these videos, please click subscribe. 70-741 Lab 6. Installing and configuring IP address management. That's the acronym IPAM. In this lab, we're going to be installing IPAM on a member server. And our second exercise, we'll look at configuring IPAM. We'll be working with our domain controller, our LUN-DC1, and our member server, LUN-SVR1. So understand that IP address management, IPAM, it's a feature that was first introduced in Windows Server 2012, and it provides an administrator with the ability to plan, manage, track, and audit the use of all IP addresses and the DNS services within the network. IPAM requires several steps to successfully configure the server, discovery, and address space management. The planning stage is fairly simple, but the servers, services, and administrators must all be configured carefully to ensure the feature adds full value. So we're already logged into both our DC1 and our SVR1. So on SVR1, we're going to come up, we're going to click Manage, Add Roles and Features. On our wizard, like always, we're going to click through the wizard introduction. We're going to do a role-based installation as always. We are managing our SVR1, so we'll click Next again. And on the roles page, we're going to click Next once more. This is a feature. If we look down our list, we can see IP Address Management, IPAM. We'll put a check mark there. We can see that there's a number of administrative tools that are required. We need to be able to manage it, right? So yes, you want to add those features. So we've got those features we're going to install. We're going to install the actual feature itself. We click Next. We're going to click Install. Now we're going to sit back. We're going to wait for this installation to complete. And then my students are going to take their first screenshot and paste that into step number 10. In the meantime, we're going to pause the video and be right back. And our installation is done. It took about an extra 30-45 seconds that we cut out of the video. We'll go ahead and we'll close our installation screen. Hopefully our students, you've gotten that screenshot, you pasted it into step 10. That's as simple as installation. Our first exercise is done. If only everything was that simple, right? Well, configuring IPAM takes a little bit longer. In our second exercise, we're going to configure and enable IPAM so it can scan and manage IP addresses. IPAM provisioning is the process of allowing the IPAM server to configure and manage the necessary features and functions of the servers, services, and domain objects required for IPAM. Now, we're going to begin by entering PowerShell. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to PowerShell admin just to make sure. We're going to do this with administrative permissions. We're going to invoke a command, and it's invoke -IPAM GPO provisioning. We're going to create some group policy objects through PowerShell. And so we're going to type in invoke -IPAM G, and I'm going to hit tab to see if I can tab complete and save myself some spelling errors. There it is. Invoke -IPAM GPO provision. Use that tab complete. It'll save you time and it'll save you some errors. Next, we're going to do a -DO for domain and tab complete again. A space. The name of our domain, which in this case is datum.com. Another space. And now GPO pre, and I'm going to tab complete once more. Prefix name. GPO prefix name, and we're going to assign that as IPAM1. Your specific environment, it could be something different. This for our test lab is what we're going to use. Next, we're going to specify the fully qualified domain name for the server that's going to be running IPAM, and we do that through a -IPAM server, tab complete. There it is, IPAM server FQDN, and now of course the fully qualified name of our server. LUN svr1.adatum.com. We're going to go ahead and we're going to press enter. It says, hey, do you want to run this? Yes, we do. We type the letter Y and press enter. We can see that the provisioning is progressing. It's creating GPOs. It's importing them into our group policy management. And now we have one more prompt. So it says it requires each computer account to have permissions to read those. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say, yes, we're going to continue. Okay, well, I'm not sure why I'm getting this error. But, well, actually, it's not an error. It's just telling me I need to do this. But I said yes, and it gave it to me again. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to check out the knowledge base article that is shown. We're going to do some troubleshooting, and I'll be back. Okay, so let's take a look. Here is that knowledge base article that is linked there. And they're talking about an update that resolved a man-in-the-middle attack, a definite cyber issue. So it says, resolution is add the authenticated users group with read permissions on the group policy object. If you're using security filtering, add the domain computers group with read permissions. Well, if I look into my domain controller and I go to group policy management, let's take a look what we've got. I've expanded it already, and here we can see, for example, the group policy for DNS, and now authenticated users are there. If I look under delegation, they've got read permissions from security filtering, but I don't see that domain computers. Let's add that and see if that would alleviate this. We're going to do that to each one. Ah, wait a minute there. Authenticated users is not listed there. Let's get these added. I'm going to add the domain computers as well. It did create the group policy objects. Now, let's jump back over to SVR1. I'm going to type yes once more. Okay, so let's take a look at this message again. Group policy requires each computer account to have permission to read group policy data from a domain controller in order for user group policy settings to be successfully applied. Well, that just makes sense, right? Please add the domain computers or the authenticated user security group with at least read permissions. Okay, well, I have done that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say no. And we should be done. Our settings are still here. Let's see if we can progress. I'm going to move on. So my students should be taking a screenshot as well of their PowerShell screen and posting that into step number 4. I'm going to close the PowerShell window, and now I can see I do have IPAM. I've clicked on IPAM, and what we need to do is we're going to start configuring this. It already has connected to us. It knows about our server name and our domain. So we're going to jump and we're going to click on Step 2, provision the IPAM server. Little wizard screen tells us what we're going to be doing. We can go ahead, we can click Next. We're going to use the WID, the Windows Internal Database. If this was a production server, you would most likely want to be connecting to a Microsoft SQL server. We will use the WID. We're going to click Next. We need to put in that prefix name that we defined in that PowerShell command, and that was IPAM1. If you've used something different, you would want to put that in this area. We're going to click Next, and we're going to click Apply. For my students, once your provisioning is complete, you're going to take a screenshot and paste that into step number 12. Now we are done. We can see what we've done. We're going to click Close. And we're going to go ahead, we're going to jump over to our DC1. We've already logged into it. We're already in group policy management. For those of my students that are not, you're going to want to log into DC1. You're going to go to Tools and then Group Policy Management. You're going to expand your forest. You're going to expand domains. You're going to expand the domain name. And you're going to expand your group policy objects. We're going to answer our first question. Which 3 GPOs were added for IPAM? Well, you can see those 3 right here on your screen. There's no reason for me to read them. They're on your screen. Put those in for question number 1. We can go ahead, we can close the group policy management. What we are going to do is we're going to go back to Tools and we're going to select ADUC, Active Directory Users and Computers. We're going to, within our Active Directory in datum.com, we're going to select the user container. And we can see that a security group was created for us. Let's go ahead and double click on that. We're going to answer our second question. What type of group is IPAM UG? Well, there's 2 areas listed, group scope, group type. Combined tells us what type of group this is. So combine your setting for group scope with group type, and that is your answer for question number 2. What type of group is IPAM UG? Universal Security Group. Let's go ahead and select the Members tab. Question number 3. Which member is in the IPAM user group? Our computer account. The computer that's hosting IPAM. Lund-SVR1. There's question number 3. Let's go ahead and select the Member Of tab. We can see that we are members of a number of different groups, but we want to add a few more. We're already membership in the DHCP administrators and the DNS administrators as well as log readers, but we're going to add enterprise administrators, event log readers. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, we're already in event log readers. We don't need to do that. We're simply going to do enterprise admins. Oops, helps if I type it correctly. And there we are, enterprise admins. We can go ahead, we can click OK. We can close ADUC. And what we want to do is we want to reboot our domain controller. We're going to right click, we're going to select shutdown. We're going to select shutdown once more. I wanted to reboot. My apologies. I meant to reboot. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let well, let's see here. Well, I did not shut down. I'm not sure why that did not shut down, but it didn't. Okay, so we've started back up. I'm simply going to left click. I'm going to click the power button. I'm going to say restart. The reason that I'm going to give is operating system reconfiguration planned. Should just take a few moments for it to shut down and restart. Once our DC's up, we're going to jump back over to our SVR1 and we're going to continue with our IPAM configuration. And I will forewarn you, this can take a little bit of time. Some of these steps you may need to run repeatedly. Refresh, rediscover, refresh, rediscover. It'll seem like it's not working. And then you'll go into it again and, oh, hey, there's our settings. It's just the way IPAM works. And there is our logon prompt. I'm going to wait for Server Manager to come up just so we can see that everything's working just fine. Got a few services that are in the red, but that's simply because they're delayed start. That is normal. We should be in good shape. We're going to jump over to SVR1 now, and we're going to move on to Configure Server Discovery. In the Configure Server Discovery dialog box, what we're going to do in the Configure Server Discovery dialog box, we need to select the root domain, but before we can get to that, we need to get a listing of the forests. So I've clicked Get Forests. Background task is running. We can see it progressing across the back of the screen there. Once that's done, then we should be able to select our domain. See, right now there's nothing listed. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click Cancel. Let's take a look here. Completed. We're going to go back in, and now it's populated. So if it doesn't show up to start with, do the Get Forests, let it complete, close it, reopen it. Now we want to add our domain. So click Add. We can see that all three checkboxes are checked. So we'll be able to discover all three of those roles. We're going to click OK. And now we're on to step number 4, which is the server discovery. So now we've specified our domain, and we tell it we're ready to discover what's on those servers. We can see it's going to run in the background. Here again, this could take upwards to 5 to 10 minutes. We simply need to have patience and sit back and wait for it to complete. While it runs, I'm going to pause our video. Okay, so it appears that our discovery is done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select number 5, select our Add Servers to Manage. And we can see that we've discovered our LUN DC1. Manageability is unspecified. The status is unblocked, but we need to get this to managed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Edit Server. We need to switch the manageability status from unspecified to managed. We're also going to add a check mark for DHCP server. So we've got DC, DNS, and DHCP. We'll click OK. Now, here again, this is going to take some time. We're going to right click on that server name and we're going to say Refresh Server Access Status. This is going to take some time. This is one of those steps that you may have to run repeatedly. Once you get that progression bar as ending, as it shows now, what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to say Retrieve All Server Data. It may or may not show up. We might need to right click and choose Refresh Server Access Status once more. And then we can also press F5. So let's go ahead. We're going to right click and we're going to say Retrieve All Server Data. So here again, that task is running in the background. We need to wait for it to complete. We can see it ended. Nothing has changed. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select Retrieve Server Access Status once more. I've had it take upwards to 10 minutes for some students. Depends on your system. Depends on the installation. I'm also going to press F5. Now, look on the right-hand side. Data retrieval status completed. IPAM access status unblocked. We are done. We have been able to successfully retrieve that server. Let's go ahead and on the left-hand column, let's click Overview. We're back to managing our servers. And what we now, since we now have found those services on that server, now we want to tell it retrieve data from those managed servers. Clicking number 6. Here again, you're going to see a progression go across. That's all you see. Here again, it could take a few minutes on your system. It does appear to have completed. Under our IPAM on this middle column, I'm going to select IP address blocks. Let's see what information we got. It did discover our network. So for my students, question number 4 is, which address block was already added? Well, it's your network. Which part of that shows your network? Yes, we're using a Class B scope, 172.16.0.0/16. Now, let's go ahead and in the upper right, under Tasks, we're going to select Add IP Address Block. This gives us the ability to add networks to manage. We're going to add a Class C space. We're going to type in 192.168.10.0, and for the prefix length, we're going to select 24, and then we can click OK. On our left-hand column, underneath IP address space, click on IP address inventory. We're going to go up to Tasks and say Retrieve Address Space Data. The next thing that we can do is, you'll notice that there's also a Monitor and Manage section. Let's go ahead and click DNS and DHCP servers. We can see both services are running on DC1. Let's go ahead and let's click on DHCP scopes. We can see our scope. Under DNS zones, we can see the currently installed DNS zones. This is how we configure IPAM to be able to monitor, manage, and be able to tell us what's going on in our network. Well, this is the end of this lab. We're going to continue IPAM, however, in Lab 7, which is managing and using IPAM. And we'll be looking at how to go about managing both your DHCP and DNS within IPAM, so you don't even have to access the specific DNS servers or DHCP servers where those roles are hosted. We'll also look at delegating roles in IPAM for management. I hope you enjoyed this lab. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. And as I tell all my students and listeners, I'll see you in the next lab or lesson. Have a great one.